Hello everyone, my name is Peyton and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to talk about the utter craziness that is free agency. And before I really go into that, the first thing I do want to mention is the gameplay you're looking at is me playing Apex Legends just being carried by my teammates. And you'll see once you actually watch the gameplay. But I will say we do end up winning the game, but I think the biggest thing to me is just how much my team carried me. Anyway, moving on from that. So with NFL free agency, I feel like I have to do about 3 separate videos because for me being a Saints fan, I can talk a lot more about the Saints that have now gone on to other teams like Marcus Williams and Teron Armstead, the re-signing of Jameis Winston, and also to an extent the pursuit of Deshaun Watson that ended up not happening, and then also the players that the Saints did end up signing so far. But the main thing I just want to talk about is just the other deals around the league. The only other exception, and I do think this does need to be another separate video, so basically I'm talking about 3 videos here, is the whole Deshaun Watson Cleveland to Cleveland Browns thing. And this also involves Baker Mayfield. So that's kind of what I want to talk about here. And I'm sorry if you're hearing any noise in the background. I've been trying to record this video without other background noise going on, but I guess that's what happens when you do it in the middle of a Saturday afternoon. But anyway, moving on from that. So when it comes to free agency, it has been insane. You have future Hall of Famer in Von Miller, at least in my opinion. You have other high caliber players or other Pro Bowl players that have left in free agency to join other teams. And that is actually what makes free agency fantastic. Because prior to free agency starting back in the 90s, whenever you were drafted by a team, you basically stuck with that team throughout your entire career unless you were traded, which was actually kind of rare. And so usually it just meant that teams who had very good scouting departments and developmental coaches ended up being more successful, like the Pittsburgh Steelers are the prime example, especially when it comes to the Steel Curtain. And then you can compare that to teams like the Detroit Lions, the New Orleans Saints, even the Tampa Bay Buccaneers also, like basically bottom feeders of the entire league throughout the 70s and 80s going into the 90s for the most part. They were always pretty bad for the most part, while Steelers and some other teams that I can't think of off the top of my head, like 49ers maybe, if you have a good scouting department, you are always pretty successful. This is why free agency came into play, so you have a lot more player movement, player freedom, to where players rather either play at home or they feel like they have a better opportunity elsewhere, whatever it may be. So I never really like to bag on free agency. I think it does have its perks, because if you don't have it, then basically it's like whatever team you're drafted by at the age of 20, 21, 22, you're stuck there for your entire career. All right? And too bad if it doesn't work out for you. So there's only going to be a few that I'm going to mention, because again, I'm going to link the site in the description below. That shows the list of it's actually going to be ordered by how much these players were paid in total. And then you could just scroll down this list about the teams that they went from, where they went to. And again, I'm going to link it down in the description below. So the first one I do want to mention is Von Miller going to the Buffalo Bills. Now, obviously, if you're going to look at it from the money perspective, it makes a lot of sense, because he signed a 6-year deal for $120 million, even though he's already 32 years old. So if he fully does this deal, then he would go up until he's 38 years old, which usually defensive ends or like elite pass rushers normally are not that productive when they get that up there in age. Now, maybe Von Miller can defy that, but we'll have to see. But you're talking about one of the best pass rushers in the league going to a Buffalo Bills defense that is just absolutely stacked. And I don't even know how else to say it. And the Rams just could not afford to retain him, because the Rams are already in cap hell themselves. I don't think they did all that much to put themselves under the salary cap, to where they can actually make moves, or at least substantial moves, to where they can either get big time free agents or retain one like a Von Miller. So this one doesn't surprise me. The fit, I don't know. I think it's kind of a weird thing to me, because I thought the Bills already had a very good pass rush, but again, I could be wrong there. So again, you can criticize my opinions, my analysis, if you want to call it that, down in the description in the comment section below. The second one I actually want to mention is one that I really didn't know of until I did a little research, and I did very, very little research. I will be clear on that. Is Christian Kirk going to the Jacksonville Jaguars, formerly of the Arizona Cardinals? So you're talking about, and I do think this makes perfect sense for the Jaguars, because you're talking about a young receiver who still has some room to grow, that does have some production, going to a Jaguars offense that doesn't have many other options right now, who has a very young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, who needs a lot of help. Trevor Lawrence mightily struggled his rookie season because everything around him was absolutely dysfunctional. And so I think having a coach in Doug Peterson who knows a thing or two about offense can definitely help. And then you just apply him with weapons and an offensive line will definitely help him out, so he can turn it around in his second year in the league. Speaking of getting an offensive line, Brandon Sheriff, who is the highest rated guard in free agency, signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars. 3 years, $49.5 million for Brandon Sheriff. And I do need to mention this. Randy Gregory signed, not Randy Gregory, I was reading that. Christian Kirk signed 4 years, $72 million. I do think the 4 years, $72 million is a slight overpay for Christian Kirk, but I do see the fit there, as I do with Brandon Sheriff. The Jacksonville Jaguars need a lot of help. Now, going into the draft would definitely do wonders, and if you hit on those picks, then awesome. But you also need some proven veteran help and veteran leadership in that locker room to really help out Trevor Lawrence and that entire team in general. And I think having Brandon Sheriff there, who again, one of the best guards in the league, proven, is going to protect Trevor Lawrence a heck of a lot. The next one I do want to mention real quick is I actually do want to mention Randy Gregory, because I do think this one's a little funny. So at first, the Cowboys tweeted that they re-signed Randy Gregory. But then, right when Randy Gregory changed his mind, it's like, no, I'm going to sign with the Denver Broncos, Dallas immediately deleted the tweet. I do think that's a little funny. But his move to Denver does make a good amount of sense, because Denver just traded away Von Miller, and so they're at least replenishing some of the losses in terms of the pass rush that Von Miller provided with Randy Gregory. Now again, obviously Randy Gregory's not going to walk into Denver and be the next Von Miller. That's not going to happen. But I will say that this is a good fit for Denver, and I do hope it works out. Even though Randy Gregory has had issues in the past coming into the league, it does seem like he's figured it out right now. We'll see if he behaves himself in the future. The next one I do want to mention is Allen Robinson going from the Chicago Bears to the Los Angeles Rams. The definition of someone who needed a change of scenery. Jeez, I can't speak. Allen Robinson had by far the worst season of his career, just because Matt Nagy was still there calling the offense, not having an organized offense whatsoever, and then having a revolving door at quarterback, and for the most part being Justin Fields, who was just set up to fail. And Justin Fields, it didn't seem like he really meshed well with Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson had the worst production of his career, and I know that a lot because I had him in my fantasy team last season. But going to the Rams, who are coached much better, especially offensively with Sean McVay returning, and then Matthew Stafford as the quarterback, and then just going to a team that just won the Super Bowl will help a lot. I do think Allen Robinson is a very, very good receiver who just has been in a bad situation for the last few years. Another funny one I will mention is Zadarius Smith. Zadarius Smith went from the Green Bay Packers to the Minnesota Vikings. He went for 3 years, $42 million. All right. And I can't remember where to first, but Zadarius Smith was supposed to go somewhere else, and he ended up changing his mind, going to Green Bay's rival, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Green Bay was also in cap hell. They couldn't afford to retain Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, which I'm about to get to, and other players are also free agents, and so he was going to go. It is kind of funny that he went to the Green Bay's rival also. I do think that the fit, I don't know about the fit, only because Minnesota's defense is going in a new direction, not with Mike Zimmer not being there anymore. And then the Minnesota defense was starting to perform a lot better as the season went. So as a talent perspective, obviously, I'm not questioning Zadarius Smith's talent, but how he fits with the roster and whatnot, obviously, whoever was starting at defensive end previously is going to get booted from the starting lineup, but we'll see how this works out. And one thing I will say is that maybe he provides a leadership presence to a young Minnesota team, a young Minnesota defense, but we'll see how that goes. So the last two I'll mention are the two biggest moves that are not involving Deshaun Watson. Really three. One of them I'll quickly mention, Aaron Rodgers. I thought it was more likely Aaron Rodgers was going to retire than actually join another team, but he ends up re-signing with the Green Bay Packers. And again, another kind of media incompetence and miscommunication between media and Aaron Rodgers' camp, because at first I think it was 4 years, $200 million, but yet it's actually 3 years, and I can't remember how much money it is. But again, that kind of annoys me. If you're going to try and break something, make sure the information's accurate before you actually report it. But him returning to Green Bay, to me personally, is not the most surprising thing. I could see him on another team, but a lot had to happen, I think, in order for Aaron Rodgers to say, you know what, I'm out of here. But the other two I wanted to talk about a little bit more. So Devontae Adams is traded from the Green Bay Packers to the Las Vegas Raiders and immediately signs the biggest contract any receiver's ever signed. I think it's like 5 years, $140 million. I will say he does definitely deserve the money. He is a top receiver in the NFL, at least a top 5 receiver in the NFL, and I think that it's going to translate. He's not just a product of Aaron Rodgers. I'll say that. That's what I'm trying to say. And I do think it's good that Derek Carr finally has an option outside of Darren Waller, because outside of Darren Waller, all he really has is Hunter Renfrow, who I personally do like. But he's a slot receiver who gets you those tough yardages. He's not a home run hitter or someone who can get you 20-plus yard plays like a Devontae Adams can. So that's why I think this is a very good move by the Raiders, or at least I hope it is. We'll see how it pans out. Just Derek Carr has to figure out that he has more receivers than just Darren Waller. And I do find it surprising that it came out that Aaron Rodgers knew, even though he resigned with the Packers, he knew that Devontae Adams was going to be traded. He wanted out of Green Bay. So there's something going on with Green Bay that either I didn't do enough research on, or that wasn't really known with outside of the organization, where even though Aaron Rodgers returned, Devontae Adams is like, you know what, I'm out. So I do find that to be a little bit peculiar. And again, if you know the situation, or if you see the reports, or if you know more personally, then definitely comment in the comment section below. And then the last one I'll mention for this video is Matt Ryan being traded to the Indianapolis Colts for a 3rd-round pick. The Atlanta Falcons were desperate to get rid of Matt Ryan, their longtime quarterback, because I remember it came out on that day the Falcons owed him tens or probably like 20 something million dollars guaranteed if he stayed on the roster by a certain time the day he was traded. And the Falcons were like, we're not doing that. The Falcons are in an obvious rebuild situation, not being good this past season, and now Calvin Ridley being suspended. All they really have now is Kyle Pitts. I think it's just a situation where Atlanta is ready to rebuild, and they really need to get rid of Matt Ryan, who is an older quarterback who can still produce even though he's not elite. And he just needs somewhere else to go, a team that is ready to win. And Indianapolis is that place because Indianapolis has a very good coaching staff. They have a very good offense, especially an offensive line and a running back. They do have some decent receivers that I do think that Matt Ryan can work with. And then what's it called? A very good and underrated defense led by Darius Leonard. So I think Indianapolis is ready to win. I'm not going to say that they found their quarterback because Indianapolis has started a different starting quarterback on day one for the last 5 years, going back to at least 2018, I believe it was, with Andrew Luck before he shockingly retired. And then they went to Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, and then Carson Wentz, who was an absolute disaster in the second half of the season, which is why Indianapolis is like, you know what, we're done with you. We're going to ship you off to Washington, which I did find to be strange, but that's another kind of an aside. So again, it just shows the utter craziness of free agency with all these signings, and especially at the quarterback position, all the trades, all the signings, all this type of stuff, like Teddy Bridgewater going to Miami for a year, talking about the ultimate journey quarterback now, basically. Even though I do think Teddy Bridgewater is a little bit better than just a journey quarterback, but again, that's just a whole nother thing. And I know I've gotten through a lot of stuff at once and a lot of time. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, like the video and subscribe if you are new. Peace.